Hi everyone, and welcome to our next Monday Funday. Today's going to be kind of crazy. We might have to cut up the film a few times because I'm still getting my bathroom remodeled, and every once in a while there's sound of drilling or banging or something else. It's only been 3 weeks, so we'll see how long that goes. I've decided that I can't shave until I have a bathroom. So if I look like more and more like Santa Claus, then that's just because I haven't got a bathroom. Um, Today we're going to be talking about interesting things for me. I always have had this crazy, insane curiosity about almost everything, and so I often try and just find things on the internet that I don't know about, and this is something that I have fun doing. And so, looking for something interesting, looking for something fun, trying to find something to think, "Wow, I didn't know that." This is always kind of fun for me. And so, this is also as a teacher, I enjoy being able to show kids maybe just something new, maybe just to wake up a little bit of interest in something, anything. And so today, I've got some little pieces of paper, and we're going to make something that's called a Möbius strip. A Möbius strip. And so normally when we have pieces of paper, they have two sides. And this is perfectly logical, right? Now I know for some of you who are being really picky, you'll say, but Mr. Press, the paper actually here, it does have a thickness, so there is another side here, so this is actually three-dimensional. But for our purposes, we're just going to pretend that this is perfectly flat. And so if I hold it here, it turns invisible. So let's just all pretend that this is only a two-dimensional object and that it has one side here and the other side here. So yeah, we can see definitely it has two sides. If I take my pen and draw on one side, I start and I finish and I've only drawn on one side. And so the other side isn't there. And this is also still true. If I take some glue and put it over here just right on the edge, and if I go ahead and make a little ring out of it, then I have a ring, and I can also say that this has two sides. In fact, here it has an inside and an outside. And once again, if I take my pen, as everyone knows, I can draw all the way on one side, and I'll never reach the other side. So if I draw always on the inside, I can draw around, meet the same line, and never have it. So this, anything interesting? No, not really. This is kind of boring because everyone would be like, hey, duh, that's pretty logical. But if I take one of my other identical strips of paper and I put a little glue on it, and instead of just making a regular ring like this, I put a little half twist in it. So when I glue it together, I'm going to glue it as a half twist. And this little thing is called a Möbius strip. A Möbius strip. Now what's curious about this, it only has one side. And so if I take and draw a line on it, then I'll draw all the way around and draw all the way around, and I'll meet the same line and everything is drawn because it only has one side. There's no way I can draw a straight line and connect to my straight line without covering all of it. And so it only has one side. Now that's kind of funny in the world of normal world. For math, it's pretty normal because math, you can do crazy things that everyone who studies a lot of math says, oh, well, something with one side, that's perfectly normal. So here I'm making another Möbius strip, and watch, normally for the ring, I would just glue it here, and here I'm just putting a half twist. Now, the half twist makes it a Möbius strip, and I know some of you are thinking, well, if I put two twists in it, well, then it's not a Möbius strip. If I put three twists in it, then yes, it is a Möbius strip. So if you have the half twist, or if you go a full twist, then it's not a Möbius strip, but anything where you have a half twist. So if I twist it 5 times, then yes. So anytime you get the half twist, I guess 5 times 5 half twists, so 2.5 twists, 3.5 twists, something like that. Okay, so I've made some Möbius strips, and I have a regular one. Now, are these just okay? That's fun, and for you, anyone at home, I would highly recommend drawing a line around here and seeing that it does only have one side. But there's also some other interesting things that we can do with this. And so this is something. Now, this ring has two sides, and so what happens if I cut it? If I cut it along the center all the way around? Now, perfectly logical would say that I would get two rings that are exactly the same size, but they're only half as wide. So I get two rings. And so this is wonderful. I cut it in half, I get two. And so if I glued it back together, I would get one. So this is fun. And so the number of sides, this still has two sides, this still has two sides. And so that's okay. And so this little experiment was perfectly predictable. But what happens if I cut this one in the same way and just cut in one line going around the center? What happens if I cut? Will I get two strips that are just half the width, or will something else kind of crazy happen? Now, as you guys can see, I'm not really doing any magic. I'm keeping it here because this isn't magic, it's math. But you might think that it's kind of magic-y. Now, when I cut it in half, what's kind of funny, because here I got two pieces, and so I guess the sum would still be there, all the same size. When I cut this one, the length doubles, so we add the two lengths, and the number of twists doubles. So each half twist added into this, and so this has a full twist. So this is not a Möbius strip anymore, but it's like just because this now has two sides. So what I did is I took the one side, cut it in half, so my sides doubled, the size doubled, and the number of twists doubled. And so this is like kind of strange with all of the stuff. And of course, anyone who studied math would go, wow, that's perfectly normal. But you can see right here that there's a full twist. There's a full twist in my thing, no longer the half twist. So two half twists became a full twist. Now, which one of these is bigger? Because I need to make two cuts in this. Now, what I'm going to try and do is something kind of crazy that I'm going to cut twice. So I'm going to make two cuts along the thing instead of just one. And so basically I'm cutting this in thirds. And as we can imagine here, what's going to happen, I'm going to get three rings, all of them very thin now because I'm cutting this in half. And maybe I should have started with something a little bigger. But this one, these two-sided rings are kind of boring because nothing really exciting happens with them. And this is not going to be anything fun. Finished one cut, I have a separate ring. Finished the next cut, and I have a separate ring. So basically I end up with three rings, each one a third of the width. And so nothing exciting. I cut it twice. I have three pieces. If I cut this one in half, then yeah, it would cut into two separate pieces, each one with one loop in it because it has two sides. But my last Möbius strip, what would happen if I did the same thing? Now, would I get one, would the edges, let's see, if I cut it in half, I got it twice as big and twice the number of twists because there was the two half twists became one full twist. So I doubled the size and doubled the number of twists because I cut it into two pieces. So now if I cut this into three pieces, will it still make it three times as big with now three half twists so it becomes a Möbius strip once again? What do you guys think? See, normally when I've showed kids this, we have the long discussion. What do you think will happen? And in fact, in classrooms sometimes, during English class, one of the advantages I've had where I worked once in a bilingual school, all I had to do was try and get 10-year-olds interested about anything so they could talk in English, and kids had incredible English skills. And so we were able to talk about just topics. And so we would vote on what's going to happen, and people were trying to decide what would happen when we cut this in three. And so some people would say that it's going to cut 3 times as big with 3 times as many twists. Some people said that it's going to be, cut into 3 separate pieces. Lots of kids right now would say, wow, I have no idea what's going to happen, because this just doesn't quite make any sense really at all about what's going to happen in anything. And so I'm almost done cutting right now. So we've got 2 cuts all the way around. So I'm cutting this into 3 pieces. And this means that I have a chain. Wow. I have 1 Möbius strip. So this is a half turn, the original size. And then I have my big double size with 2 twists. So here I had a double side with 2 twists. So this is pretty much the same. These 2 would be the same, the 2 bigger ones. But here I have another Möbius strip that's connected to the inside. And actually this was the inside ring that I cut. So what happened was the 2 outside rings, I guess you could say outside except that they were on the same side, that those became the bigger one, and the middle one became the little one, which still is a Möbius strip. So we can say I have a double and a single, so that's still 3 times. This has a half turn, this has a full turn, so my turns did triple. So my turns tripled and my length tripled. And that's a Möbius strip. Now, it's kind of interesting, because how long have we known about these? Well, they were probably known about long time. Why do we call it a Möbius strip? Well, in the mid-1860s, 2 German men discovered this independently at the same time. And Mr. Möbius wrote his book 2 years later, and the other guy who nobody remembers because it wasn't named after him, it's Mr. Listing, 2 German mathematicians. He wrote his book like a year later, and so sometimes whoever writes it first wins, and that's the way the world works. Does it have any practical use? And I was doing here, okay, let's see. If I get my Möbius strip, let me just cut this one. I could have ripped it, it's only paper. Does Möbius strip have any practical use? And it ends up that, yeah, the most practical use of it is in conveyor belts. Sometimes they do this because if they make a big long conveyor belt, since it only has one side, it's going to wear evenly. So it's like, instead of always getting used on one side, because if I had something like this, it would be used on one side more than the other side. This only has one side, so it gets used evenly, and so that way you can use it and it works better until it's finally needs to be replaced. So they use it sometimes in conveyor belts. There's lots of extremely interesting things that they can do with it in nanotechnology and chemistry and stuff like that. And so if you're interested, I would highly recommend reading more about a Möbius strip. This is just one of those things that when you say that, you know, I can make something that only has one side. And that's kind of crazy when you think about it for a mathematical sense and in practice. That, yeah, if you made, I don't know, I saw once in a store when I was a kid, the train, that they put a train track on this. And so the train, of course, it was like, could go upside down because sometimes it would be upside down. But they showed that the train could go all the way around. And I'm like asking my dad, wow, how is that? And he said, well, it's a Möbius strip. That's the way they are. They only have one side. And so the world's full of interesting things, and I hope that this was something kind of interesting for you guys. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful Monday Fun Day. Bye-bye.